Hello and welcome to the Panto podcast. First of all, I'd just love to say thank you very much for all the ongoing support that you've been giving for the podcast. It really does mean a lot. We are now up to 14,000 downloads so far, and it just keeps growing and growing week on week. So I cannot thank you enough. Please feel free to share it via all social media. I'm sure you've got friends who would absolutely love to listen to the show. This week, I interview the Northeast legend who is a star of stage and screen and adverts too, which we'll come into during the podcast. It's Charlie Richmond. So today I'm joined by Northeast actor extraordinaire. And literally, you turn on the telly, he's there. Wouldn't you say so? It's
yeah.
How did it all begin for you?
Well, I've been plodding away now for 20 years. I did my first ever professional job back in 1999, which was a film called Purely Belter. It was set in the Northeast, and I did that from leaving school. And that gave us a taste of the industry, and I thought, this is exactly what I want to do. And so I went off and trained at drama school. Then I went to university and got a degree in drama and got an agent. And then since then, I've done everything from theatre, television, film, adverts, pantomimes, you name it. It's been an exciting 20 years.
The adverts have been fun, haven't they, as well?
The adverts are probably what I'm most known for. It was a campaign with pot noodle. Other noodle snacks are available. And it lasted for 3 years, where I played Brian the Wag. And yeah, I mean, I didn't even expect it to take the turn it took back then. I ended up in Nuts magazine doing Brian the Waggony Ant, so people could write in to me and I would answer their questions, so that was fun. But yeah, I did a Money Supermarket campaign as well, so I've been very fortunate over the years that I've done some really high profile jobs. Although I trained in musical theatre, so that was always where I wanted to be, on stage, singing, acting, dancing, that type of thing, you know. So that's where my passion is.
So what was your first experience as a child with theatre?
Well, as a child, I was 11-year-old, and I did a school production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I played Pharaoh. And again, even back then, I knew, that's when I found out I could sing. So there was a priest at our school, Father Wayne, they called him. God bless him, he's dead now, passed away. But he played the piano. He was our MD for the show. And he took me through the Pharaoh song, and he just turned around and said, "You can actually sing." And that was like a big encouragement. So that was my first experience at 11. And then skip a few years later, 13, I did Oliver at high school, played Mr. Bumble. And then another rendition of Joseph, I think about 15 or 16. And then before I knew it, I was into Purely Belter, and off I went, you know. So I'd had a few experiences. Joined an amateur operatic society in Walkerville, which is, they're still there, Walkerville Musical Society they're called now. And I still go over and support them and see them. And yeah, I sort of crafted me art on a Tuesday and a Thursday night, and performed maybe like a summer show and then a Christmas show, long before I turned professional. But yeah, good.
What about as a child? Did you go to the theatre much?
Yes, always at the Panto. We actually went to a pantomime. It was a touring pantomime, and it used to come to a social club in Newbiggin Hall, the Wester Hope Comrades Club. And we would always, me and my younger sister would always be taken to the pantomime at the Comrades Club. And then we followed the Time Theatre Panto back then. And it would have been, sort of late 80s, early 90s. And yeah, that was sort of my earliest recollection of getting off the number 10 bus on the Westgate Hill, freezing cold, probably snowing, and walking up to the Time Theatre to go and see a panto. I remember one with Billy Fane from Biker Grove, and Maxie and Mitch, and it was, yeah, great, fond memories.
Up till recently, you were on stage with them.
Yes, I was very fortunate in 2005. The late great Brendan Healy, he gave me my first professional pantomime job as Buttons in Cinderella at the Time Theatre, and I've been there 11 years now. This is my 10th consecutive year. And yeah, unfortunately, Maxie and Mitch are no longer there. And like I say, Brendan, he was fantastic. He was an inspiration. He taught me. He taught me about the rule of three with comedy. You know, how to tell a joke and how not to milk a joke, because it's very easy with Panto to, if you get a laugh on something, to try and shoehorn it in every time you do it. And he never wanted to do that. He was all about, if it happens naturally, then that's fine. But if not, don't try and shoehorn it in so you can have a corpse and that type of thing, because it just doesn't work. And never milk anything. Never tell a gag more than 3 times. You know, or go for 3 punchlines. But because then you know the joke sort of loses its humour. So I learned a lot from the guy over the years. But I'm still there, and I'm working with a new production company at the Time Theatre now called Enchanted Entertainment, and the guys have come up from Kent, and they have just thrown everything, including the kitchen sink, at it. And what a year we had last year with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was the biggest panto I've ever done at the Time Theatre. It was incredible, and I'm not taking anything away from the past productions, because I've had some wonderful, wonderful years there. Met some great friends over the years, but Enchanted Entertainment have really stepped it up, and we're now punching in the same ballpark as the Theatre Royal, is the Kudos Pantos. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be there for the next. I got a 5-year contract, so yeah. So they wanted me to stay, so I said yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% behind him. So yeah, it's good.
How did you find your character?
Well, dare I say this? I invented a character called Numpty Norman a long time ago with Newcastle Pantomime Company. And unfortunately, due to artistic rights, Newcastle Pantomime Company still own the name Numpty Norman. So I couldn't keep that name. However, Numpty Norman, or Silly Billy, or Buttons as I am this year, or Wishy Washy, and whatever other characters I've played, it's basically me. It's me being daft. And I kind of, yeah, I'm really tapped in with me childish sense of humour. Inspired by Norman Wisdom, Lee Evans, you know, Laurel and Hardy, you know, any of this slapstick comedy, it really sort of resonates with me, and I try and bring that into my performance. So, but basically, in a nutshell, it's just me being daft, you know. So that's how the silly characters sort of came about. A few years ago, though, a few years ago, I asked Maxi Peters if I could become Dame off the back of the pot noodle adverts, because I thought there's never been a better time, if I'm Brian the Wag on the TV, to become a Dame. But I'm going back to 2011, 2012, so you know, a good 5 or 6 years ago now. And he gave me some sound words of advice, and he said, what you want to do is you want to play the comedy characters, the Buttons, the Wishy Washies, for as long as you can, because you've got all the rest of your life to go into Damon. And he was absolutely right. And so that's me path with Panto. I'm gonna perform these silly characters as long as I can, the sort of lead comic characters as long as I can, and then, like I say, when I get into my sort of 40s, 50s, then maybe I'll don the old frocks. And I'm a traditionalist, so I like a traditional Panto Dame, which is a bloke in a dress with a bloke's accent who says bloke things dressed as a woman. Like a bloke, though.
Like Brian the Wag.
Like Brian the Wag. Hello.
Who came up with that anyway, Brian the Wag?
A fantastic company in London called Mother. And they're a big ad agency. And yeah, the guys down there, they lock them in a room and tell them to come up with a genius idea. And I mean, whoever thought that, you know, dressing up as a woman and pretending to be a footballer's wife, just because the guy wants to live an easy life and eat pot noodles all day. I can't fault that humour, because it's right up my street. We'll
put the link as well to the advert.
Oh,
we'll put that on the podcast as well.
Enjoy.
No waxing needed for that, was there?
No, absolutely not. We shot it in the Ukraine, and there's one scene where me bare bottom is out, and the poor lady behind us that's giving us a spray tan, she had to see it all. So yeah, I was a consummate professional. She was with a coffee. I was actually getting sprayed with cold coffee. It wasn't spray. It wasn't tanning stuff because that wouldn't come off for the next take. So it was freezing cold coffee in like a water, like a garden watering can, and she was just dousing us in coffee. So I looked like I was getting a tan. Oh,
The glamour of telly.
the things you've got to do.
So, as a child then, for Panto, what was it that excited you about it most?
Oh wow! As a child, for me, I believed that when those actors walked through the doors on the stage, I believed that there was a world behind there. I believed that, and like every other kid in the audience, when the baddie came on, I screamed my voice box off, and shouted and booed and hissed, and again cheered when the heroine came on stage. I was, from the minute the thing started, I was drawn in. I was captured. I never knew as a child that I would become an actor. I never knew I would be. I actually wanted to be a fireman, but I wear glasses, so that was something that I couldn't do in me later teens. But now apparently you can. But I never knew that I wanted to be an actor back then. But I was just drawn into the story. I believed the characters, and I believed that if you walked through that door, 7 dwarfs lived behind it. So, yeah, I was hook, line, and sinker. And that, I suppose, for me now, is what makes Panto so special, because those kids are coming, and it's often the first time they've ever stepped foot in a theatre. And so it is the most important show they're ever going to see in their lives, because it's educating them about it's not a TV and the fourth wall's down and where real people stand on the stage right in front of them. And those kids believe everything that you do. They laugh when I trip over and fall, the boo when I'm getting hurt. And that for me is what it's all about. That sums up Christmas, pantomime, in having families coming up to you and saying, we loved that show, that was hilarious. There's no better feeling in the world.
Does it still excite you when you get your script?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And what excites me more is knowing, if I laugh, I know they're going to laugh. And I remember last Christmas reading the script, because I'll get it probably beginning in November. I'll get the script and I'll read it. And if I'm belly laughing, or I'm looking at some part of it, a set piece, and I'm thinking I'm belly laughing at this, I know the audience is going to laugh. And for instance, last year when I got Snow White, we did a sketch called "If I Was Not Upon a Stage," and I read that, and I knew I was the ballerina, and I knew I was the one that was going to be the brunt of the boxing gloves and the frying pan and the cricket bat, and have to take all these beatings. And I was laughing my head off reading that sketch, and therefore I just knew if I'm laughing, they're going to be laughing. So yeah, the inner child excites me. That when I read that, I just think, yeah, this is going to be class.
Do you get recognised much?
Yeah, it's bizarre because I've done, over the 20 years, I've done everything from high-profile adverts to feature films at the cinema to I've done Emmerdale, I've done George Gently, Vera, you name it. I feel like I've had a really successful career. I did one episode of Tracy Beaker, children's BBC, about 10 years ago. And I often get recognised more off that than I ever do. I could tour with the Royal Shakespeare Company for 30 years and nobody would ever know me. However, you do one episode in Tracy Beaker or 10 years in Panto and people start recognising you. So, obviously at Pantomime, I'm clean shaven every single day for Panto. But so that means in January, February, I like to sort of let my beard grow in a bit and just be a bit lazy. And I remember standing in Tesco's at Kingston Park, and I'm standing at the till, and I've got a baseball cap on. It's February, say. I've got a full-grown beard. I look like a scruff. And the next minute, there's a little girl in front of us and her dad, and she's tugging on her dad's sleeve going, Dad, that's that man. And I'm standing there thinking, what are you saying, kid? What man? And she's going, Daddy, that's that man. And now this man's turned round and looking at me, and he's thinking, who on earth is this bloke? And she goes, from the Panto, the funny one. Well, obviously I was relieved because I'm thinking, what is she accusing me of? I looked like, well, you can imagine what I looked like. I looked like a right scruff. But to the relief, the bloke then turned around and went, oh, that's nice, darling. And off they went and paid for their shopping. So yeah, you get recognised. It's nice. Especially if you've made people laugh. That's nice.
Because you always make a point of coming out and saying thank you to the people for coming along at the end of the Panto.
For me, that's if without the audiences and without the loyal support of the Tyne Theatre. Now, the Tyne Theatre and Opera House is one of the oldest working Victorian theatres in the country, and I'm proud to be part of their family down there, and I'm proud of being given the job in the first place. But without the audiences coming to see the shows, it would just be us on stage jumping around and with nobody there. So I think it is important to thank them for coming. I think it's important to welcome them back the next year, especially when, you know, there's a generation there sitting there now that next year some of them will be off to high school. They might not fancy coming to Panto again because they've left their primary school. But we tend to find that our Pantos, they span all of the ages. So they're not just slapstick funny for the kids. All you have to do is fall down on stage and the kids are absolutely belly laughing. But we like to try and make the mums and dads laugh as well. If the mums and dads are laughing along as well, you know they're going to come back time and time again. So the set pieces like the 12 Days of Christmas or If I Was Not Upon a Stage, that's the type of sketch that brings the mums and dads back year in, year out. And yeah, I thank them for coming. Why not?
So what's your favourite part of the Panto?
My favourite part of the Panto, believe it or not, is probably the end. Which is when I normally pick about 4 or 5 children to come up on stage, and we either do a song sheet or we do a little dance routine. But I like to spend that time to interview the kids, because you can have the best script in the world, you can have the best set pieces, songs, jokes, the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. But you cannot predict what one of those 5 kids is going to say. It is comedy gold. And I come along the line and I ask them a set of questions. Who are you here with? What do you want off Santa for Christmas? This type of thing. And the answers that they come out with, the toys that they're asking for, who they're with, their mum's boyfriend, their mum's friend, their dad's friend, you just can't make it up. And, you know, because it's raw, natural and live, the audiences, especially the mums and dads, they're creased. So my favourite part is the last 10 minutes. Not because I'm about to get away and go home, but because it's more live than just the live theatre part aspect of it, you know. I don't know what they're going to say. It's hilarious. I love it.
Any favourite moments?
Oh,
over the years.
A few terrifying ones. Favourite moment for me, a long time ago, I was doing a show with Brendan Healy, and I had 2 pieces of music that I would listen out for on the intercom. So I'm sitting backstage, I think I was sitting in the green room chatting away, and I hear this piece of music, and it does this little tinkly bit, and then I thought, right, that's the first piece of music. And then it went quiet, and then I could hear Brendan through the tannoy improvising, and he was going, that's it, he had this key in his hand. And the audience was going absolutely bonkers with him because he wasn't meant to have the key in his hand. And there being me guard dogs and all barking. And then all of a sudden I remembered that I was supposed to be on stage. So what I'd heard, the tinkly bit, was actually the second piece of music. And so I actually ran as fast as I can through the stage door, down the stage and onto the stage before Brendan would exit with the key. And I was met with a look from him that was, yeah, I'll never forget that. But that was one of my favourite moments because I was late for the first time ever. Funnily enough, 2 days later he was late for me, so that was fine. We kind of got our own back on each other. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many. One of the most emotional moments for me was the last year of Newcastle Pantomime Company. I have to admit, it was a very, very emotional end to a very, very successful and long run. And yeah, that was one of the highlights for me. I thoroughly enjoyed working for them for 9 years. And yeah, I mean, there's been so many different shows where I've had highlights. Yeah, loads.
Was it very difficult having to sort of jump ship from the Newcastle Panto to be sort of cherry picked?
It was hard. Unfortunately, I had to make a decision based on being an actor, and I needed to secure my future. I was very fortunate that the theatre had put my name forward, that they wanted me to stay. And the new company invited me along to the Sand Centre in Carlisle, where they've got another one of their venues, and it interviewed me. And basically, they offered me the contract there and then for the future. So I knew I had to secure my future, which it's a hard thing for me to come to terms with, because I didn't want to let the other guys down. But I gave them me all. We finished on a high. We did Beauty and the Beast a couple of years ago, and it was absolutely brilliant. Those guys are having a successful pantomime now over at Gateshead Stadium, and I've remained friends with them all, and I wish them all the best. And I cannot wish them anything more, you know.
Have you been to see it?
I didn't get a chance last year. It's like a busman's holiday, you know. If you drive the number 10 bus Monday to Friday, you don't go on it on the weekend to see how the other drivers are driving it. Panto, the schedule is so hard. We do about 16 shows a week. About 13 to 16 shows a week. It depends on how the week lies. We get one day off. So our day off last year was a Thursday. This year it's going to be a Monday, so we get Mondays off. And then, of course, I get Christmas Day off, but then I'm straight back in the Boxing Day. Most days have 2 shows. Other days, like the Saturdays and Sundays, can have 3 shows. So the schedule's so busy that I never get a chance really to get out there. If they ran until January, I always go and see the Theatre Royal in January, the Customs House in January. So I kind of, if they ran a bit longer, I would get a chance. But from the second week in November till the 30th or the 31st of December, game over. You know, I'm at the Tyne, and then in between that, I'm trying to do Christmas shopping. So, you know, I'm running out with a full face of makeup on. Sometimes the microphone's still attached to my body, and I'm running with a cap on, a scarf on to my eyes, and I'm running around Debenhams just buying 3 for 2s in the Blue Cross sale, and just panic buying, thinking I haven't got any presents, and then I spend the next hour wrapping them in my dressing room, and then I always spend too much money. But yeah, that's normally me. Running around town, a pair of stripy socks and a pair of Converse, then with my jeans pulled on top of them. So, you know, if you see me, do come and say hello.
But don't take up too much of your time.
No, because I'll be running around Christmas shopping. Come and carry me bags.
How'd you get your energy over Christmas?
Well, a few years ago, I really suffered. In fact, last Christmas, I come down with that terrible sickness bug 4 days before the end. And, you know, we don't work with an understudy track, although the director did say he would step in and take over. So I was literally running off stage and had buckets in the wings. And that sounds horrible, and I'm sorry for that if you're listening to this whilst eating. But that's the reality of it. And a few years ago, my wife got me onto Barocca. So I started taking Barocca probably around about now, October time. And I sort of build up my immune system. I build up my fitness a bit more before Christmas. I try and eat healthily over Christmas. Get as much rest as I can, because your stamina levels, and you're constantly coming into contact with new people. So I anti-bac a lot as well. There's always a bottle of anti-bac around me because I'm chatting to the kids, and they're all coughing and spluttering and coming in from their school shows and stuff, and it's lovely, but they've all got germs, and I don't want to catch that germs, so I just try and keep myself as healthy as I possibly can, and Barocca's the key. Manuka honey, Barocca, and apple cider vinegar. They're my 3 go. You'll always see them in my dressing room on the table. Apple cider vinegar for the throat, Manuka honey for the throat, and the Barocca for the immune system. And that's me sort of medicine cabinet.
So the voice, when you're actually playing the part of Silly Billy or whatever the character's called each year, where did the voice come from?
So the voice, I don't know. It was just me trying to be funny, so I just kind of raised it up a bit, and I act all silly like this, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to say, but then I speak like that, and I think, how would I sound if I was, I don't know, just stupid? And the voice comes in. Do you know? I wish I hadn't done it. It would have been a lot easier if I could have just been myself. And again, it's, you know, once you do something daft, you know, one year I remember Billy Mitchell played a part in Dick Whittington, and he had a lisp, and it was hilarious. But then that lisp, he's got to do the lisp now for the rest of the show, and and kudos to him, like he absolutely nailed it. He did it, but yeah, once you make that decision, it sticks. But then I suppose I put the stripy socks on, I put the buttons costume on. My makeup routine's very simple. A little bit of foundation on, the pink cheeks. I paint in the eyebrows with a bit of eyeliner, pencil, and that's me. I kind of, the contact lenses go in, and I kind of just become the idiot character, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the voice comes from.
And you wish you hadn't done it?
No, well, I don't know. It's obviously worked, so yeah. No, I can't say I wish I hadn't done it.
Got a nice 5-year contract out of it. So
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, at least 5 year. I'm hoping they're going to extend that as well if they're listening. Yeah, but I'll have to work on some more voices, I think.
So, what about the song sheet then with the kids? Any favourite moments with that?
Oh, well. We've had everything. We've had, bless them, kids that are so nervous that they've weed themselves on stage, to kids that are just so excited to see you because they've been before, maybe didn't get a chance to come up on stage, and just absolutely blab out as much information as they can. One of the most frightening moments, though, was a few years ago. We had, bless him, an autistic lad come up on stage, young lad, and he was just very excited. And and as I started to interview him, he ran off into the wings, which is an absolute no-no because he's supposed to stay with me. And then he ran back on the stage and then ran back off. And then we've got like a 5-foot drop at the front of the stage into the pit. And that's our biggest fear is, the safety of the children, making sure they stand where they're put and they're not going to hurt themselves. But this kid was running around. And Maxie Peters came out and was carrying the kid and managed to catch him. But yeah, we have moments like that once in a blue moon. You'll never ever forget that because your heart's in your mouth because all you want is the kid to be safe. Mind, the audience were creased. I mean, they were absolutely howling because, again, nobody knew that kid was going to run away like that, and nobody knew that I was going to have a fit, because I nearly died. So yeah, it was hilarious. It was hilarious, but for all the wrong reasons. Yeah.
You couldn't write them moments, could you?
You cannot script them, because it's kids, and you don't know what they're going to do, what they're going to say, and like that poor lad, he was just so excited, and I mean, bless him, he was excited. He was having the time of he was living his best life. He really was, but he just wanted to see what happened behind the wall, and ran off. So that was brilliant. Closely chased by me, but yeah.
So those last 10 minutes, you said they're your favourite. Do they keep you sharp?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to stay on top of it. You've got to, and I mean, there's many pantos, many comedians out there that like to play a double entendre. They like to play some of the jokes close to the knuckle. I've never been like that. I get quite offended. Not offended, that's the wrong word. It affects me if I hear a rude joke around a kid, and I don't know why, because to adults I'm probably really, really potty mouthed, but with kids I don't know what it is. I just have this switch that I like to keep it as clean and as sharp as I can, and yeah, being with those kids, I really get a chance to speak to them, but again, I can't control what they're going to answer us back, so yeah, hilarious. It's just because it's so live and raw and unscripted, it can go in any direction. And there's been times where I've gotten a gobby one and I've just gave them the handheld microphone. I've sat down next to them on the stage and just gave up the will to live. And I've just let them keep talking and talking and talking. And of course the audiences are laughing their socks off because they just think that's hilarious. And then I'll always end with a line like, I bet your gob's happy when your tongue gans to sleep. And then I'll take the microphone back off them and I'll move on to another one, So, aye. Geordie humour.
Have you ever been out of the area doing Panto?
I did it. I did an out the back of a van gibber Panto once with Laura Norton from Emmerdale. Toby Stevens, I think his name wasn't Andrew Thompson. It was a four-hander, and we were in a transit van, and we had to, and it, God bless them, Gibber still work. They're a fantastic company as well. Got a big up Gibber, and I appreciate them giving us the job. However, it was one of the hardest experiences of my life. You know, being in a static venue like the Time Theatre, you don't know how lucky you are going to the same place every day, and the set's there, it's all set up, the lights are done, everything. When you're touring out the back of a van, and you could be in Wallsend Library in the morning, then Alnwick Garden in the afternoon, you know, and then the next day you could be in Middlesbrough, and then later that afternoon you're in Coldstream. You know, that was one of the hardest experiences, pulling the set in and out the back of the van, setting it up, the costumes, getting them on, you know, packing down, off you go again. It works. Each person in the van had a different job, so one would be responsible for setting the costumes, somebody would be responsible for setting the lights, the sound, and then the set. And then, of course, you play your characters and you go on and do what you're there to do. But boy, oh boy, I can say I've done that, and I never want to do it again. But I think it's important that any of that up and coming actors that are out there that want to get into Panto, get out there, do a tour, do something like that, Panto out the back of a van, because you sort of carve your craft. You really you know when you're lucky, you know, and I feel blessed that I am at the time, because now I go in my dressing room. We decorate. I shared a dressing room last year with Lewis Denny. We decorated. We put some Christmas tinsel up. It's home. I move into the theatre from the last week in November, right the way through until the first week in January quite often. So it's home. So I've got the fridge in there, the coffee machine in there, all of me supplements that are ever going to need, me Broccas and that type of thing. You know, me dressing gown, me slippers. You know, that's home. So when you can do that and go there every day, and you've got a couple of them home comforts, that's what makes it important, you know. And I'm very grateful for that. But I don't fancy doing another one out the region. Well, I would do another one out the region. I would go and do the London Palladium or something like that, Michael, if you need me. And if you, but I need to be more famous first. I think, you know, you've got to have won X Factor or Britain's Got Talent or one of these programs, I'm a Celebrity, and then you can go and do your London Palladium gigs alongside Joe Pasquale and Julian Clary. But until then, I'm happy where I am.
So, aspirations for you as an actor, not just in pantomime, but because you mentioned to me before we went and started recording, you're doing a film at the moment as well.
I've had a fantastic year. 2018's been brilliant for me. I finished Panto. I finished Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and then I went straight into The Last Ship musical, which was written by Lorne Campbell, and the music is by Sting. It's something that I've been involved in for the last 8 years, and I'm very fortunate that I got to tour the UK and Ireland for 6 months of this year, doing that, playing the role of Adrian Sanderson, the shipyard poet. That experience was amazing for me because that's what I trained in, which was musical theatre, and that's where I've always aspired to be. I finished that and I jumped into 2 plays back to back at the Customs House. I did My Uncle Freddie, and then When the Boat Comes In, I did the world premiere of When the Boat Comes In as Matt Headley, which was amazing, a fantastic experience with a wonderful cast. Whilst in rehearsals for that, I got an audition for the Ken Loach film, Sorry We Missed You, and very, very luckily I landed a part of Henry Morgan. So I'm currently filming the Ken Loach film, which we've been shooting it across September and October. And then a couple of weeks ago, I had a casting for the Danny and Mick CBBC sitcom with the infamous Danny Adams and Mick Potts from the Theatre Royal. Hilarious. I'm the biggest fan. They're very, very funny. But this children's sitcom that they've got is just hilarious. So I play a football referee, and I shot an episode of that a couple of weeks ago with them, and I found it very, very difficult because they had me corpsing with laughter because they're 2 of the funniest guys ever, and I found it very difficult to keep a straight face when I was supposed to. But yeah, I'm having a fantastic year. I'm still on the Loach film, and aspirations for the future, keep going the way I'm going. I mean, I class myself as a jobbing actor. You know, so one minute you'll see me in Panto at the Time Theatre, the next minute you might see me pop up in George Gently or Emmerdale. You know, next minute I'm doing a bit of theatre or a commercial. I can also I do a lot of teaching through the year. I'm doing some lecturing at Sunderland University. I'm going into the Sage Academy in Biker to do some lecturing later this year, and yeah, and I also do a lot of drama based training, a lot of health and safety work. I work for a company called Just DBT, where we specialise in using drama as a training tool. And I quite often go out to oil rigs. I've got all my tickets. I go out to oil rigs and do some reenactment and some training out there. So it's it's a varied career, and I think it's important never to focus in on just one thing because the phone will never ring. You know, I have an agent. I have a wonderful agent, Janet, but I think it's important to keep as a job an actor. You know, open the door to all opportunities because you never know what's going to happen. I do a bit of writing, I do a bit of producing, you know, but yeah, aspirations. I'd love it to just keep picking up momentum because I think that's the key to the success. If it can pick up momentum and you can go from job to job in this industry, you're very, very lucky. But in 20 years, I've had periods where I've done 2 and 3 months with no work whatsoever. And so other sidelines like DJing or comparing or, you know, hosting events and this type of thing, you know, that sort of pays the mortgage, pays the bills in between jobs. So yeah, I think you've got to be a jack of all trades really to keep going as an actor because it's one of the toughest careers out there unless you get your 20 seconds of fame on the TV and you make a name for yourself. And even then, who knows how long your career is going to last if you haven't got the sort of the guts behind you and the experience behind you. So, it's a funny old game being an actor, but I think with the right mindset, the right positivity and determination, you can achieve it, and that's what I try and do.
You said that you're trained in musical theatre. Any West End productions you'd long to be in?
To quote a Gavin Webster joke, people often ask me, have I ever done a West End run? And, well, I've sprinted through Scotswood a few times, but never a West End run. The Last Ship was the closest I've been to a West End run. It was on tour. It's going off to Canada early next year. Then it's going into the West End middle of next year. However, my character's changed. I don't want to get into it. It's a long story. But yeah, that's been the closest. Don't get me wrong. In 20 years, I've been up for everything from Blood Brothers to Les Mis to Billy Elliot, and yeah, just sometimes the opportunities just weren't right or what have you. But I don't know. One day I'd like to do a West End run, absolutely. But my home's up here in the northeast. My family's up here in the northeast, brothers and sisters, and all their kids and that type of thing. So, although I work away all the time. My roots are here in Newcastle, so you know, I wouldn't like to be away for any sort of prolonged period of time. You know, 6-8 months is fine. Of course, I've got to get back for Panto. You see, so I don't know. The West End, it would be great. But we'll see if the right opportunity comes along.
Any dream roles though you'd love to play within the West End?
Oh, absolutely. Jean Valjean in Les Mis. I love traditional musical theatre, so Phantom, Les Mis. But Jean Valjean or Javert would be me two favourite roles. I'd love to play Phantom. I have a high tenor voice. So the range is definitely a thing for me. I can cope with the range. Dream roles, yeah, one of those would be brilliant. I'm never going to be a leading male, you know, in terms of the handsome sort of Josh Groban type of look. You know, I've just been working this year with Richard Fleischman in The Last Ship, and Rich has gone into Company in the West End, Sondheim's musical. And, you know, you look at the likes of Richard Fleischman, and and his mum and dad I know really, really well as well. He's just got the right genetics. Him and his sister are gorgeous. So he plays your leading male. I'm more leading male's best friend, who's a little short, fat ginger lad. So as long as there's one of them in there, otherwise we're going to need to spend a fortune on prosthetics and wigs. But yeah, you never know. You never know. Who knows?
Do you think looks is important within theatre?
Oh, this industry is based on looks. Unfortunately, we go for auditions, i.e. job interviews. We can be going for them twice a week, once a month, 10 times a year, you name it. You go for castings all the time. And unfortunately, from the minute you walk in the door, they know if you've got the part, if your face fits. And that's what this industry is based on, your hair colour, your accent, how you look. I've been lucky picking up the roles where they're looking for the guy that lives next door, that guy that lives on your street. I always, I could show you casting breakdowns that come through from my agent, and it's always got, must not be athletic, must be a little bit curvy, well built, these type of things, and you just, it must not be a looker. And I think to myself, thanks very much, but but that's the truth of the matter. It's if your face fits and what your shape of your body looks like. If that gets you through the door, then you open your mouth. I mean, for 20 years, people have said to me, "Can you tone down your accent? Can you do general northern?" I don't know what a general northern accent sounds like. Is it Manchester? Where is it? Is it Yorkshire? I don't know. General northern, that's all I ever get. Can you do RP? I can, but I'm a Geordie. I'm a proud Geordie. And yeah, over the past probably 8 years, having a Geordie accent's become much more of a fashionable thing.
Cool, isn't it?
It's a cool thing now, yeah. But rightly so, because, there's some fantastic Liverpudlians, I love the Liverpudlian accent, Scottish accent, these Celtic accents should be more. They should be on TV. We shouldn't have to be made to do a middle of the road accent. But that's always been something that you're always going to battle with if your face fits.
You do realise now in my head I've now got ideas about you playing a Geordie Phantom.
The funny thing, believe it or not, though, I find it easier to sing in an RP accent than I do to speak in an RP accent. Yeah, but that was maybe through we had a fantastic musical teacher at college, a lady called Rose Haslam. Completely lost contact with her, but she was all about the diction. She was all about the diphthongs, and when you sing, you can change your accent. You can sing in an American sort of pop voice accent. You can sing in a classical British accent. And I find with a tenor, with the operatic side of my voice, it does sound clean. Very clean compared to being a Geordie, However, the last ship, we were encouraged to, obviously because it's all about Wallsend shipyards, we sang in our native accent, which was an experience in itself. So yeah, accents are a funny thing, really. They can hinder you at times, but then other times they can open the door and provide the opportunity, So, I just go with it. I've got an ear for accents. I can spend an hour with somebody from Teesside or an hour with somebody from Manchester, and I'm picking up their accent. However, I never put it down on the CV unless I've actually been paid to do it. So I think I've only got about 5 accents on my CV: New York American, Liverpudlian, Scottish, Irish, and I think what else? Like general RP or something like that. I could try any other accent, Birmingham, this type of thing. I'll probably offend people listening to the podcast, but yeah, I never like to say I can do it unless I've actually done it. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Pantomime. You mentioned about obviously working with Danny Adams in his sitcom. How do you find the competition between? Is there a competition between yourselves, being the two big pantos in quite a small city? To be fair,
there's not. Kudos and the Theatre Royal have their own network of audiences that come time and time again. The Tyne Theatre, bless them, are growing year on year. Enchanted Entertainment, since they've came in, it's increased year on year. we're already up again on this time last year with Cinderella that's coming up. There's no sort of rivalry, we're not, there's never like a bad word said or anything like that where you go, oh, you're nicking my customers. There's enough people in the city, in far and wide. I mean, we drag people in from Sunderland, from Durham, so we're taking away from the Gala Theatre in Durham, we're taking away from the Sunderland Empire. We have people travelling from the coast, so we're taking away from Whitley Bay Playhouse. But at the same time, there'll be people in Gosforth that'll travel down to Whitley Bay and go and see Steve Walls and the guys, because that's what people like. I think audiences will always go where they want to go. The thing at the time, we pride ourselves that we offer a family-friendly Panto at a family-friendly rate. It isn't going to bankrupt you to come and see the Panto, which I think is important, to make, especially at Christmas time when everybody's trying to spend their money on toys and food and stuff for the families, that it's affordable, and that the content that you're going to watch is clean and it's suitable. But there's some fun. I mean, in our region, there's some fantastic Pantos. There's some absolutely brilliant venues. The Customs House at South Shields, they do great business down there. Like I say, I've just done 2 plays there. I was chatting to Ray Spencer, who's been there donkey's years, and Ray, yeah, they're great. But the people of South Shields, they go to it. They do a fantastic business, But I think there's a nice camaraderie where we get together. Do you know about the Interpanto party?
I have heard about that.
You've got to come. You should come. You should come this year. The Interpanto party is usually organised by the guys at the Theatre Royal, because they're like really organised and stuff. And they'll pick a venue once a year. It's normally between Christmas and New Year. And we just get a chance to go out in all of the Pantos in the regions, meet, and we have a drink and we have a party and we have food and we dance till the early hours. And last year it was at Fat Buddha in Newcastle, and I just remember Danny Adams, Adam Potts, his name is, but Adam and Mick and I were drinking these tequila patrons, which are bad for you. You should never drink alcohol until 2 o'clock in the morning and then get up the next day to do a matinee, because that was just bad. But the thing is, everybody's in the same boat. So we have a lot of group texts on like WhatsApp or what have you, on Facebook, and everybody was just taking pictures of how ill they look the next day. And that's hilarious, because you're all in the same boat. You've all got to go and do a Panto in your respective venues, and you've got to get through that next day with a hangover. And yeah, so the Interpanto party, I recommend it.
What about last year with in Newcastle? I'll say at Newcastle this time, because I only get told off. Last year, Newcastle had the Pantodrome.
Oh yeah.
What did you think about that whole concept? Not what happened to it in the end, but what did you think about another competing venue?
I don't know the guy, so I can't comment on him. However, I think it was madness. To sell theatre at the best of times is a difficult thing. And as you said earlier on the previous question, we already work in a city that's saturated with 2 big theatres, 2 venues. Then on our sort of periphery, you've got Whitley Bay, South Shields, Durham, Concert. There are other established venues that have established pantomimes. To come along and set up a purpose-built sort of prefabricated tent, so to speak, in an area that's, don't get me wrong, it's famous for doing the Lady Boys of Bangkok. They come with their show and it's a success. But that's a brand that tours the country, and it already has momentum. I think it was a crazy thing to try and do at the best of times, and I couldn't imagine the cost implications, and I really wouldn't want to get into that whole thing. But yeah, not a wise move, really, not a wise move. And there was a lot of unfortunately disappointed people affected by that have come to us this year, and that was a minefield of of just problems, real problems, and I'm close to a couple of the people in it, so I don't want to get myself in that open that can of worms here.
That's
No,
all right.
definitely.
Sorry.
No,
But I need to ask it because it kind of taints Panto when you get something like that there, where I actually was attending that performance that got cancelled on the penultimate performance, and there were kids crying, and there's families who were angry and they were blaming it on the air conditioning not working.
Yeah.
And you've got families who've spent a fortune, and there's just an A4 piece of paper up saying
It's
cancelled.
Unfortunately, I knew in November, late November, early December, that there was major problems in the camp. I'm good friends with Denise Welsh. Denise contacted me, and she's patron for a few charities that were booked to go and see the show early December when they announced that they were opening late. So therefore those charities had no Panto to go and see, yet they had the transportation getting them into town and everything. Because the logistics of taking a group of people, the logistics of taking your family into town, it can be a nightmare, parking, etc. So I put Denise's charities into our Panto and give them a freebie for last year to not let them down. So I knew there was a problem. When Denise left, her name was tarnished in the press, etc., etc., and the Nationals. I don't want to get into it, but in the end, as it's come out in hindsight, she knew what was going wrong in the first place. So I kind of think Denise got the last laugh there. Like I say, it's a tough sell to sell theatre at the best of times, no matter whether you're doing a musical, whether you're doing a pantomime, whether you're doing a play. And if pantomime's the most important time to encourage young children into theatre for the future of theatre, of musical theatre, etc., you've got to make sure that experience is enjoyable, and you've got to make sure that experience is consistent. And they absolutely failed and let down a lot of people. A lot of families were let down. A lot of families were out of pocket. And if you just turn up to a venue to see a piece of paper on the door, and you haven't been in the ticketing provider hasn't called you and give you any advanced warning that it was cancelled, it's just I cannot comprehend that. That's not how any industry should work. You wouldn't get that in any other industry. Going forward, production companies that want to dip their toe into this pool, I welcome them, but have the financial backing behind you, have the contingency budget behind you, because anybody that thinks they can get into theatre, whatever theatre that is, and make money is sadly mistaken, unless you've got the biggest stars in the world, and therefore you'll see that those biggest stars in the world will sell out venues tenfold, and they don't actually need production companies. They do it themselves. I would always say, going forward, there should be more guidance. There should be more of a stringent vetting program in place, because it tarnishes it. That wouldn't help the Theatre Royal. That didn't help us. It didn't help any other venue in the region. It doesn't help. It knocks the confidence in people to go and book tickets. It'll have affected the Ladyboys of Bangkok that's there now, because people go, do we trust that we're buying tickets? You hear about scammers that buy tickets for Ed Sheeran concerts and stuff like that, then go and sell them on, and then you hear that you can't trust the tickets. I mean, if people are willing to spend the hard-earned cash, the minimum you've got to do is guarantee a product for them to come and see. And yeah, I like I say, there's a number of people in the industry who it affected last year, and feel very strongly about it. But I don't want to get into any sort of political name calling and that type of thing. I just think those people going forward really need to have a think about how they approach a production and how they financially back that production, because that's the most important thing. You've got to be able to cover your overheads, without a doubt. if you don't sell a single ticket, if Enchanted Entertainment didn't sell a single ticket this year for Cinderella, which is that would never happen, but if they didn't, they've got a pot of money that they can pay the cast, pay the venue, pay all their staff, and they walk away massively in debt. But they've got to be able to do that because they've contracted everybody. And that's the absolute... That's the same for Kudos. That's the same for First Family. That's the same for Blue Genie. It's the same for any production company out there in the country. They've got to be able to cover their overheads. And because if it catastrophically goes wrong, if we have the worst winter... a couple of years ago, Mamma Mia was at the arena. We had 3 foot of snow. Newcastle Pantomime Company were at the time. We had one of the worst Christmases ever. Worst Christmases ever. They did about 14 or 16,000 seats. Don't quote me on that. But that can have an effect. And if you can't cover your overheads and can't cover them with an overdraft or financial backing, then you are literally, you're scuppered. And there's no chance of you coming back again to do it again and again and again. So yeah, it's not all at the high life, you know. It does have a massive effect on everybody else around you because... Unfortunately, the industry is small up here, and the creatives and the actors and the people that are on these jobs, we all know each other, we all talk to each other, and you feel it for somebody if they've done a job and then haven't been paid, or a creative's gone in and provided something and hasn't been paid. Not to mention the audience is coming along and not getting a chance to see it. So yeah, it was a sad thing to happen, and probably shouldn't have happened, but I don't think it'll happen again.
We always finish the Panto podcast with the big question.
Go for it.
Your dream pantomime, where we choose your favourite panto.
Yep.
You can choose whether you're going to be in it, on the boards, or if you're going to be in the auditorium watching it, and you can choose anybody you want as the cast, alive or dead.
Oh, wow. Now that question is... I wish you'd sent us that question in advance. So I could have thought about that.
I thought you might have listened to the podcast before.
Do you know... right. Oh, God. Right. Do you know, my favourite pantomime that I've done to date, and this will be my 3rd time I've done it, is Cinderella. With me as Buttons. I think it's one of the most traditional pantos to start with. So I've got 2 ugly sisters to fill. So you need a comedy double act that are hilarious. So I would probably bring in... Oh yeah, we'll go. This is a tough gig. So I'll probably bring in somebody like Craig Revel Horwood because I think he's hilarious on Strictly, and you need somebody to bounce alongside him. Probably, so he's the straight man. So we need somebody really funny. Let's go with Lee Evans in drag. Are you going with this, Lee Evans? So I'm Buttons. So we've got Craig Revel Horwood and Lee Evans as the double act ugly sisters. We need a Baron. So we'll probably go with somebody that's got a bit of a portly figure. Timothy Spall is the Baron. Right, we need a Cinderella. Now, obviously, I like to try and keep it traditional Geordie, but I've totally blown that one, haven't I? So what we'll have to do is we'll have to just go somebody like Michelle Keegan is Cinderella, just because she's ugly and really awful looking, and I think it's important to work alongside ugly people in the panto so you make yourself look beautiful. So Michelle Keegan would be in there. Who else do I need? A dame. Do I need? No, I've got 2 ugly sisters, haven't I? That would be fantastic. Then.
We need the stepmother.
Oh, stepmother, of course. So another dame.
It doesn't have to be a dame.
Stepmother.
Could go Denise.
Denise Welch. Yeah, we could. Could go Denise.
To keep it a bit Geordie and
yeah.
wicked. She's got a wicked side.
Charlie Hardwick. She's hilarious. I'm telling you, Charlie's really funny. She could be the fairy godmother. Charlie. Yeah.
Brilliant, Charlie. Well, thank you so much for taking part in the podcast.
Thank you as well. It's been different. And I'll look for. You should come into the Panto. What you should do is just come down to rehearsals and just have a laugh with me.
I will do.
It'll get that into Panto party as well.
Saved by the bell.
There you go. Phone's ringing.
Yeah, that's a job.
That's a chip. Probably. Yes,
Cheers, Charlie. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man.